and it was 3 below zero that night down at the ranger station. I don't know what it was where we was at. But the next day we got a cougar, got back to the trail about noon at the mouth of Dog Creek, and Bob had a pair of snowshoes he'd borrowed from George Rensick. They're plastic, and he broke some of the stuff. And he says, I got to fix my snowshoe. And I said, okay, you fix the snowshoe. I'll take the hunter and the dogs and go on and break trail, and you bring the hide. So I and the hunter started out, and the elk, a bunch of that trail, the trail's about that wide.
To begin with.
You're up on a bluff.
Yes.
You know, the river's
down underneath you.
But the elk could walk the trail, and their trail was about that wide. And the outside edge of the trail was up about this high above this elk trail. So you'd walk with one snowshoe down here and one up here, because if you tried to walk with both of them up here, the snow would break off, and you couldn't do it. So there wasn't room for both snowshoes down in this little elk trail, so you walked this way. And it was awkward. And it took a long time, and then we got down, we went through the bluffs in Hell Creek, and what do I call that place?
Purgatory
Gulch. We went through that and made it out, and you get below Hell Creek to Hopwood Creek, and the country opens up and it's big yellow pine timber. Well, when you'd go by under one of these big yellow pines, the snow fell out of it and flopped and made ice, on a hillside. You either took your snowshoes off or you got down and crawled.
You couldn't crawl with your snowshoes on. You couldn't crawl with your snowshoes on.
You did.
Oh, you did?
Otherwise, you was taking them off and putting them on all the time, because between trees you had to wear them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But under the tree where all this ice was, while you crawled.
And you were packing a cougar hide.
No, I had the 2 hounds and the hunter.
Oh, okay.
Bob had the hide. And
all right.
We kept waiting for him to catch up with us, and finally we got the other side of Camp Creek and got the highest point on the trail, and then from there the trail gradually goes down to Moose Creek. And I heard Bob holler. Dark. Oh, it was dark. So we waited. He caught up, and he didn't have to tie knots. And so he hadn't been able to fix his snowshoe.
Oh.
And so here he comes. One snowshoe and the other one without one. And, do you wear the snowshoe on the outside or on the inside?
Oh, dear.
He says, we got to build a fire. He says, I can't go no farther. And I says, it's only a mile and a half from here to the ranger station. I says, Emil will put us up tonight. Emil and Penny working for the Forest Service, and they was in there spending the winter. And Bob had been bad-mouthing the Forest Service, He didn't want nothing to do with them and that. I said, let me see your snowshoe. I says, I'll fix that. So I got some string and fixed his snowshoe. I said, now it's all downhill. I said, Emil will put us up for the night. So we made it to the ranger station. It was a little late. But anyway, I stepped up on the porch and hollered, and Emil opened the door and says, come on in, we'll feed you and bed you down. And so we went in, and they fed us a bunch of stew. And they said, well, we've been, just for exercise, we've been walking down as far as the Fay Smith place and back. Every morning they'd either go around the airport or down to the Fay Smith place and back just for exercise, So I says, okay. I got through eating. I said, okay, I'm going to go on up to the cabin. It was 2 miles up there. Well, they had trail broke for about a mile of it. So I put on my snowshoes and I went on up to the cabin.
A chalk creek.
In the dark. And
you went through the cedars. It didn't matter.
Well, you couldn't see anything. But
anyhow.
Anyway, I got up there, and 5 foot of snow on the cabin, and I went in and I built a fire in both stoves.
You got smoked out.
Yep, and the smoke just run me right out. So I went out and found a ladder and went up and crawled up there and shoveled out the stovepipes and went back in and went to bed. I suppose I built a fire again. I don't know, but one reason I wanted to go up there, I had radio there so I could call out home. And so anyway, the next day, Bob and the hunter come on up, and we shoveled the buildings off. And I called out and asked for a plane to come in and get us the next day. And so we snowshoed back down to the ranger station, and it went to snowing, and the plane didn't get in. So we stayed all night with Emil and Penny, and then the plane came in the next day, and we got out of there okay.
Well, now, tell about the beginning of the trip when Bob had told you he was going to be in charge of the food.
Oh yeah, Bob. He take care of the food,